Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the PureCloud Community's Q&A show, the show where we answer your pressing questions in the PureCloud community. My name is Matt Lawson. I am your online community manager, and today we're joined with our old-time guest, George. Let's go ahead and get started. George, how are you?
Doing well. Missing the water and sand and palm trees and all that wonderful stuff out in Phoenix.
All right, George, let's go ahead and get started and answer some questions in the community. This first question is one that you actually selected, and let's go ahead and bring it up. It comes to us from Mauricio, and he wants to know about agentless campaigns and dynamic messages. Mauricio asks, hi, is it possible to set up an agentless outbound campaign and present variable TTS messages to each contact? Let's say I upload a contact list and I want to tell each contact a message that includes a different value for each. For example, quote, hi, we are calling you from Genesys Insurances. I want to tell that the expiration date for your insurance is blank variable, end quote. Mauricio wants to know, is it possible to do it taking this data from a column in the contact list? Is it possible to take this variable data from an external system? I guess this is possible. What I also want to know is how easy is it to set up? George, you picked this question, so I'm assuming you have a pretty good answer for Mauricio. So what do you have to say?
Yes, I gave a quick answer online, and I wanted to give a little bit more detailed answer, just showing some of the functionality that's available in Architect for the outbound call flows. So I went ahead and set up real quick, rough example. And starting here in an outbound call flow, I just wanted to show the part of the example where it asked about, can we do custom text-to-speech coming from the contact list? So here I've got a starting task for this outbound call flow. The outbound call flow would be called from the campaign configuration. I'm not going to that part, but you just set up an outbound agentless campaign, call an outbound call flow when they connect to a live body, and then here's what we could do in that outbound call flow. So first thing, I just set up a little expiration notice, and I set up an audio sequence. And the main thing I want to show in the audio sequence is how you can add data from the contact list. So I just did a quick text-to-speech. I didn't follow the exact wording in the question, but under data, I can add data to the sequence, and here, for example, is the data, which is a variable, the contact name. And if you look at the add data, you'll notice that when you select a variable, it gives you some options from the campaign. So I could pull from campaign name itself, the campaign ID. I could also pull from the contact data. So here, if I expand it, I can see the different columns that are in that contact list. In this case, we're going to pull the one for the expiration date, let's say. Or if I wanted to, I could pull from the contact list itself, the name of the contact list and the contact list ID. But what I did in order to customize this for the particular person we're calling, I threw in the person's first name from the contact list, their last name from the contact list, tell them their subscription is going to expire on, and then I pulled in the expiration date from the contact list. Real simple there, and it varies based upon the data that's in that list, just like Mauricio was asking for. And then just a little bit more functionality from there. I just gave them the option, okay, if you want to talk to an agent, press 1. So I added that input right here, speak to an agent, press 1. Created a variable, analyze the variable. If they did press 1, then we go ahead and we set a screen pop. And in that screen pop, I'm going to call a script that has that agent's name. So pull in that contact first name from the contact list, last name, and the expiration date, for example. And I send those on into the script so that the agent can see that information when the script pops for that inbound call to the queue. Otherwise, if they don't press 1, then it just goes ahead and disconnects. And then to answer a little bit of the other part of the question, Mauricio asked if we could go to an outside data source. You would use a call data action for that. I'll just throw it in here real briefly. And for the call data action, you have to set it up under the data actions, under integrations in the admin side. I could pull a Salesforce data action, for example, web services data action if I want to go to some REST-based web service out there. PureCloud data actions if I want to pull something from PureCloud. But from what he's talking about, probably Salesforce or web services. And then once I set it up, I could pull information through that web services data action. And then pull it into the architect flow and then use that information to play it back, same as I did with the contact list information. So pretty simple. You have to do some of the background work to set it up, but yeah, not hard once you get all the background stuff set up.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, Mauricio, we hope that was helpful for you, and let us know in the question, or let us know in the discussion if you have any questions. George, anything else you want to add?
I think that's it on that one.
All right, George. Well, I think the easy part is over. The questions that you had time to prepare for are behind us, and the future is very unclear because it's time for Stump the Expert.
It's time for Stump the Expert. We love it when questions in the community get great answers, but these questions fell on hard times. No one was able to answer their plea for knowledge. Can our ragtag group of experts provide a helping hand? If not, there's still hope. We'll shuffle the question to our bounty board where community members can saddle up and take their best shot at answering. If they receive the best answer, they can save the day and earn some lucrative GCAP points for doing so. Giddy up.
George, are you ready?
Just a minute.
Okay.
Got to get something.
Whoa.
Got my thinking hat on now.
Wow. I was not expecting this. All right, let's hop in. Our first question, George. I decided to take it a little easy on you, and we're going to start with a question that seems simple on the surface about reporting. This question is called Question Regarding Reporting. Easy enough. It comes to us from Shatabdi, and he wants to know, hello, I have noticed in PureCloud agent metric reports sometimes for agent talk time shows 16 hours. In our organization, agents only work for 8 hours. I am not sure what's the reason for this. Has anyone else noticed this behavior? George, what do you think? This may be a bug. It may be a configuration issue. I really couldn't tell on the surface, but I was wondering if you wanted to take a shot at maybe pointing our friend here in the right direction.
First thing I would recommend looking at is whether that agent had a stuck call, for example, an interaction that just kept on going, even though supposedly the agent disconnected. It may have been connected in the system and maybe they left it a wrap-up, something like that. I don't know that that would necessarily force the talk time into going to 18 hours, but a lot of times people just don't completely shut down an interaction when they think they have. It might have been a callback, for example, and they ended the call, but not the callback itself. So there are a few different things that could have contributed to that. Check the agent status, make sure they actually logged out, things of that nature. Otherwise, I would have to dig into some logs in the background and try to figure out what's going on. So that would be a support case since they can't actually access those logs.
All right, makes sense to me. And because it sounds like this has happened to a couple of agents, you're thinking at the very least it might be good to check in with them just to make sure they're closing everything out correctly. That would be a good first step. All right, perfect. We hope that was helpful, and if not, please let us know. George, I think you made it through that one just fine. Let's see if you can handle the hot question coming in from Nicolay about web chat examples. Nicolay asks, hello community, I need a little help. We are starting implementing a web chat functionality, and we would like to better understand how the final product would look from an example. Would any of you share some of the production examples of the web chat implemented at your companies? We are especially interested in how the skills got implemented and transcript email functions. Thank you so much. I will probably have some more questions down the road. Cheers, Nick. Now, George, I know you may not have a living example of this that you can demonstrate, but I was thinking what might be helpful to Nick is maybe you can point him towards some documentation that exists where Genesys maybe provides some living examples of how we would set it up or something similar. What do you think? Any advice you can give him?
Basically, I would point to the developer forum or the developer community at developer.mypurecloud.com. They actually have a GitHub section on there where you can go and download some examples of things that they've got just available online. And you can also ask questions there in the developer forums where people have gotten a bit more complicated on how they set up the web chat. So I think that'd be the place to start without actually getting examples from outside of Genesys itself.
Okay, awesome. That sounds like great advice. Thanks for that, George. Let's go ahead and move on to our next question, which comes to us from Mark. Mark wants to know, is it possible to have a view for an agent where he can see all the colleague agents' status with name in their queue? That may be his entire question, but I'll go ahead and read the body here. It sounds like Mark is working with a customer, and what they want is for the agent to see, well, basically what I said. They want to be able to see, they want the agent to be able to see the status from their peers who are also on the queue. That way they can get an idea of where they are at in the rotation. George, what do you think? Is this possible?
Possible, yes. May not be exactly the effect they want, but it is a supervisor level permission, so they could turn on the rights to view the queue and the other agents in the queue and see their statuses. Might be able to see a little bit more information than they want the agents to see, but yeah, that's something they can turn on.
Okay, awesome. Do you think Mark would understand how to turn that on, or is there any kind of documentation you would point him towards?
I would probably point toward the documentation on what they call dashboards views. So in PureCloud, you can actually create custom dashboards, and you might be able to actually set up one that is just the information he wants the agents to see so that they can pull that up under the performance view dashboards. And I'm just trying to guess right now how he would set it up. But yeah, probably pull in some kind of view that would show that information. Not positive that can be done in the dashboards view. Otherwise, it would just be the performance queues activity view, and you would have to give the ability to those agents to see that queues activity. And I don't have those right off the bat. It's in the resource center. Talks about what you need as far as rights to be able to see that information.
Cool. Well, Mark, if you have any problems getting started with that, just start a new question in the community and we'll be happy to help. All right, George, I just have one more here for Stump the Expert. We are going through these at a rapid pace, which never hurts my feelings. Let's go ahead and move on to another question regarding email queues. This one comes in from Michael. Michael says, good morning. I have set up email addresses, call flows, queues, etc., so that one of our call centers can utilize routing emails just as voice calls are routed. Everything is working. I have one issue. Our Exchange Network security team wants a forced TLS agreement in place between our company domain and mypurecloud.com because there will be personal information like social security numbers, etc., sent within the emails. The Genesys team is working on it with AWS. I was just wondering if any other businesses require the same and how they were able to make it happen in the end. George, naturally, I know you don't own your own business and you aren't a PureCloud operator for a business, but I was curious, is what Michael has been experiencing, is that common from your point of view? Does it seem a little weird? What thoughts do you have here?
It's the first time I've ever seen somebody bring that up, and I'm presuming it's actually some kind of contractual agreement that they want between AWS, really, because AWS handles our PureCloud email, and their company. So they're trying to negotiate some privacy agreement that says, we agree, AWS, we agree that we will force TLS on all conversations between our mail server and your mail server. I'm presuming that must happen other places or else their team would not be requiring it. I've just not heard of it yet. So yeah, that one I can't say that I've ever seen before. And I don't have any knowledge on what anybody else has done with it.
Gotcha. Well, Michael, just in case you haven't watched the show before, we called this session Stump the Expert. The idea being we always try to throw George off of his game and get a question that he can't answer. This doesn't technically fall into that category, but what I would like to do is go ahead and add this question to the bounty board, just to try to encourage some customers to reach out to you if they've ever encountered this. In return, they will, of course, be rewarded with some GCAP points. So everybody, please feel free to help Michael out. We will hopefully get some answers to you. All right. George, I think that does it for us this week. Thank you so much for your time, as always. I will catch you the next time around.
All right, Matt. Good talking to you.
Thank you. Same to you, buddy. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. We hope it was helpful and maybe a little bit entertaining. Each week, our host and experts review community discussions and debate what content to discuss, so your voice matters. Do we miss something? Do you have a question for the show? Let us know. Join the conversation at the Genesys online community. As a Genesys customer or partner, you can create an account. Just click the sign in button found on most pages and follow the necessary instructions to create an account. Also, feel free to email us at qashow@genesys.com. We'd love to hear from you. If this is your first episode, welcome. You can view our entire archives. Go to the Helpful Links panel found on most community pages and find the QA Show archive that interests you. We appreciate your support of the show and the community. Cheers!
I guess in the interest of transparency, I am really curious, how long have you had that hat?
I bought it in London at least 7 years ago when I was on one of the trips out there.
Very good. And you decided, and you picked that hat in particular for this episode because it looks like, it kind of reminded me of like an Inspector Gadget hat. Is that what you were going for?
Well, kind of, or, that London-ish, Inspector-ish, reserved, wearing the Hawaiian shirt type. Yeah,
right.
Look.
Right, that
All works.
classic look.
The main reason it's here at work is because my wife won't let me wear it at home.